Hi everyone, today I'm going to be making a green bean casserole using green beans I froze from my garden. If you're new here, I'm Amy, the Nourishing Gardener. I have a small backyard garden and I aim to grow and use and preserve as much of my own food as possible. We're going to start by taking some thawed green beans and just chopping them into some bite-sized pieces. During the growing season, I grew 60 pounds of green beans on two little arch trellises I have. The green bean variety I used is Kentucky Blue. I've quite enjoyed how they've held up in the freezer. Not all these green beans are completely thawed, but that's okay. Once our green beans are all chopped up, we're going to move over to the stove and get started on the sauce. Before we get started on the sauce, we need to chop up some mushrooms. My husband is not a huge fan of mushrooms, so I am going to use a food processor. I use the food processor to chop the mushrooms up nice and fine so they mix into the casserole and he doesn't really know they're there. Now that we have the mushrooms all chopped up, we can move over to the stove and get the sauce started. So to start the sauce, we're gonna warm our pan on medium-high heat and add a couple tablespoons of butter. Let that melt. So we're just about there. The butter is nice and melted. Now we're gonna add in the mushrooms. So we're just going to keep cooking until they reduce about halfway and they get nice and soft. Because it's only really me and my husband that will eat this green bean casserole, our boys won't. I'm making a half of the recipe. I made the full recipe over Christmas and it was more than 6 adults could eat in one sitting. So I think half will be perfect for dinner tonight and probably my husband's lunch tomorrow. Okay. Now we're going to add the garlic. So use my garlic mincer. You can add as much or as little garlic as you'd like. Measure with your heart. And we're going to kick the garlic for about a minute until it's nice and fragrant. All right, we're looking good. So now we're going to add a couple tablespoons of flour. Just sprinkling it on top. So we're looking to cook the flour just a little bit until it's not dry anymore. It's good. Then we're going to add in a cup of milk. And the recipe calls for chicken broth, but I'm all out of chicken broth at the moment. So I'm just going to use a little bit of water, half a cup. I'm also going to add some of my homemade herb salts. This is a 4-part mixture herbs to salt. The herbs I used are basil, sage, and thyme. Let's get that all mixed together and incorporated. Once you're all incorporated, we're going to bring it up to simmer and let it simmer lightly for 3 to 5 minutes until the sauce thickens. You're going to want to stir occasionally so that nothing sticks to the bottom. There's nothing less fun than your food sticking to the bottom of your pan while you're waiting for it to thicken. We've reached a simmer now, so I'm going to turn down the heat just a smidgen to about medium instead of medium high. And we're just going to let this simmer for a few minutes until we see the sauce begin to thicken. We are using store-bought mushrooms. I don't currently grow mushrooms, but definitely something I want to do in the future. Okay, now that our sauce has thickened, we're gonna add in our green beans. Green beans. We're also gonna mix in some fried onion. About a quarter of the container. The rest we'll use to sprinkle on top. Let's just stir it all together to incorporate it. Once the green beans are all mixed in, we can move this over and put it into our casserole pan. Casserole pan. Pour in. Now, if you were going to make this for right now, like you're ready to serve it, you would put the rest of your fried onions on it and pop it in the oven to cook it. I'm just prepping this for dinner tonight. So I'm going to let it cool a little bit and then pop it into the fridge. And then I will see you guys when I go to put it in the oven tonight. It's now dinner time and we're hungry. So I preheated the oven to 325. We're going to top our green bean casserole with the rest of our fried onions. Give ourselves a nice even layer. And we're going to pop her into the oven for 12 to 15 minutes until it's nice and bubbly. There we are, out of the oven. We need to let it cool for 10 minutes. Then we can grab a piece and see what it looks like. So the casserole is cooled for 10 minutes and it is ready to serve. If you're interested in more content about gardening and growing your own food and how to use it and preserve it, be sure to subscribe.